Hi, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Hey, I know that was a sunny pool commercial that you got to just see tuning into today's call. And for most of us, that is not the case today. It's snowing here in North Carolina. I know Louisiana, all of the agents down there got hit with a bunch of snow. Doug said it's like 12 degrees down there. So it's super funny to see the South get hit with some snow. But hopefully you guys are enjoying it. I know I'm loving it. It's reminding me of where I grew up at. But on today's call, we've got an awesome call planned for you from an agent who just absolutely had a killer week last week, going over $10,000 in production. And she's been an agent for a long time now, and she's just done consistently a great job. So I'm excited to have her come on here in just a few minutes. But before we do that, if you missed the team Zoom yesterday, all right, go dig into Baltimore Life. We posted the agent guides in the WhatsApp chat. That's going to be a great carrier, a great product for you to offer your clients. So they've got the final expense plan. They've got the whole life, participating whole life plan. A lot of cool options there. And what's really cool, one thing I took away from that is some of the preferred rates for some of those health conditions is phenomenal for a lot of your clients that need your help. So if you missed the team Zoom, go back to WhatsApp, download those agent guides. All right. And be prepared to offer that product running into this year. It's going to be a main one. It's going to be one that I think you guys really enjoy writing, a very simple application process, which is pretty cool. So shout out to them and shout out to Alicia for running that Zoom yesterday. As we jump into today, let's talk about the verse of the day going into this wild Wednesday. All right. It says, "This is the day which the Lord made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I make the mistake of expecting tomorrow to come, or expecting next week to come, or expecting next year to come, all right, or expecting the next 40 years to come, whatever it may be. And sometimes you miss out on the present. You miss out on today. So as you are going out today, as you maybe you're stuck at home, right? I know a lot of the schools are closed. Just enjoy the time with your kids, play in the snow, have some fun today. All right. But remember that rejoice and be glad in today, no matter what you're going through. All right. You only get one January 2nd of 2025. This is the only January 2nd of 2025 that you will ever get. So make the most of it and let your joy be in Him and not in all the other stuff that's going around, going in, right? So enjoy today for what it is, all right? For all of you who are stuck at home today and you want to explore the world of virtual sales, all right? This might be the opportunity for you to dive into it, all right? So we have a handbook that we came out with, and it walks you through the virtual sales process. It's got a really good script in there for you to follow. All right. It just walks you through the whole thing. So if you're a field agent, all right, and you're looking at your week, you're like, how am I going to get to work? I've got bills to pay, but I can't drive because all the roads are shut down. If that's you and you want to tune into some telesales, okay, we will drop this PDF for you in the agency chat. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I wanted to let you guys know that this is available to you. It is the script from the time they answer the phone to the time that you fill out the application. Very simple process, very straightforward. Okay, it's tried, it's true. There was some input put in, a lot of studying, a lot of practicing with this script. And so it's a good one for you guys who just want to take a PDF, hop on the phone today, start dialing, and try to make something happen. If you want that PDF, let us know. And we will send it over your way. But without further ado, I want to bring on Jennifer Garner. Jennifer has been an agent with us for a while now, and she has just been one of the most consistent agents. She has a lot going on, right? I know she does homeschooling. She does a lot of different things, but she's always able to put up consistent numbers. And last week, I believe she had one of her biggest weeks yet, going over 10K. So Jennifer, I'm going to add you in here to the live feed. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. Are you guys snowed in there, down there?
We are.
Nice.
We're county.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, Jennifer, I appreciate you for jumping on here. I know so many agents are looking forward to just hearing some tips that you have for them, but give everybody an introduction, right? Who is Jennifer Garner?
Okay. So I live in Moore County. We never have service, so we have it today. Um,
Nice.
I actually, Ryan, don't homeschool my kids anymore. I have
I
homeschooled
didn't
my
know that.
they
Mhm.
went to school, public school for the first time this year. Natalie's in eighth,
Nice.
Rachel's in fourth grade, and they love it. They love it. So
Good.
sweet, bittersweet. But yeah, I've been in insurance for 2.5 years, I think now.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's been great. It's been great.
That's awesome. Now, what were you doing before insurance? What made you like jump into insurance?
I am a nurse. Before selling insurance, I'm a nurse. My friend Kelly was talking about insurance, and I worked every weekend for like 12 years to be able to be home with my kids. So I was tired. I was tired of missing everything. I was tired of, you know, it was just mundane. It was go to
Mhm.
work, homeschool. When they started school, I was just always busy with that. So Kelly introduced me to insurance, and multiple times it took me a while to finally get up the courage to say, this is what I'm going to do. So I started out, I was still nursing and homeschooling and insurance. So I was very busy. And then I just gave up nursing because it was working. It was working for me.
That's awesome. That's such a similar story to like I think back to when Alicia first started. I can relate to what your family went through with you having to work the weekends. Same with me and her. When she was a nurse, she'd work night shift. She'd get home. I'd leave for work. I'd come home from work. She'd leave for work. You just never got to see each other. It was
Right.
brutal, right? What
Yeah.
was that transition like for you? Because people hear that and they think you're crazy, right? They're like, you were a nurse and you quit. Like you went through all the schooling and quit to do this. What was that transition like?
So I was very nervous. I was very nervous at first. But I remember the day that I went out and had two really nice policies that I sold and realized I just made more money on selling these two policies than I make in 2 weeks in my nursing job. What am I thinking?
Mhm.
And it's not always, it's not all, you don't go out every day and it's just great. And everybody you run into is so nice and you sell, tons and tons of insurance, but you always get to go out and meet people, whether you can help them or not. And I love people. So I just transitioned from helping people in a nursing setting versus helping people like in their home in a different way.
Mhm.
So I'm still out helping people and I love people. I'm a people person. I love it. So um, it's very different, but yeah, people did. They were like, "You're doing what?" And it works. You can make it work if you put the time and the effort in. Make it work for sure.
That's
And
key, and I think that's why you were successful, right? Is because when you were doing that, when you were doing the nursing and the homeschooling, you still were able to put time into it, and I think that's key. A lot of agents that struggle, they're really only struggling because they're not putting the time needed into it to get the result that they want out of it. So I love too that you said you're a people person because one thing I've noticed is people from the medical field do so good in this because it's almost like it's just like such an easy transition. You're used to helping people at work, but then you transition to this, it's the same thing. You're just helping them in a different way. So it's a really neat process. So Jennifer, let's talk about your week last week, $10,000. So hats off to you. Was that your record week?
yeah, I think so.
That's
It was
awesome.
for myself. There was
Mhm.
one other that Jenna and I were working together, and we just hit a house that, oh my goodness, it was insane.
Mhm.
So many, but by myself, yes, last week was my record week. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations to you for hitting that.
But really, it was neighbor knocks. I would go to a house. My first house that I went to, the lady, she was like 67, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I pulled in, and her husband answers the door, and he is like, not nice. No, my wife's at work. The whole,
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, have a great day. But on my way there, I noticed a house that I thought, I'm going to stop by there. They're going to need my help. And so when I left, I was like, okay, I've drove out here, so I'm just going to stop by that house that I said I was going to stop. And I was able to sit with 4 people in that one house. 2 of them were in a great spot and had declined in health over time. So I couldn't do anything with their stuff, but there were 2 people there that needed my help. So I got 2 policies from that one lead that just told me no. I
That's
was able to,
crazy.
I got, yeah.
So
So that was,
let's dive into that, Jennifer, because when agents just heard you say that you had your record week and it came from NeighborKnocks, they're like, what? Like they're probably thinking you just bought a ton of leads or whatever it was. So what made you look at that house and think they need my help? Like what was it about that house that you decided to go up and get the courage to go like just randomly introduce yourself to them?
I don't know. I really don't know. I just, even if anybody has ridden with me before, I'll just be like, oh my goodness, those people, they need our help. We need to stop and knock that door. Especially like if you see like, what is something that I've been told before? Like if they have a thank you Jesus sign in their yard, you can always stop. If they have like a ramp on the house, why not stop and just help them, because maybe nobody has stopped there before. Of course, if you see a handicap sign in their corner, that might be so bad, but really, you can stop. But sometimes I just look at a house. And you're just like, I'm just going to stop there. It's like a nice little, house that looks like something that might be needing your help. I don't know exactly what it is about the house, but I just
You
said
just get that sense, like, yeah, when you've been doing this long enough, you'll look at a house and be like, okay, that's a perfect house.
Yeah.
Like you just know that the person's you can almost tell how friendly a person's gonna be by how the outside of their house looks like, So I think some of my biggest policies ever came from doing the same thing, NeighborKnocks. The leads didn't pan out and I looked and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go knock on that door. There's a car there. One thing that cracks me up is when agents are like, I didn't do good today because nobody's been at home. I'm like, well, how many houses did you drive by that had cars in the driveway? Well, they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, you literally drove by like all kinds of people that you could have stopped and talked to. So, but it's not easy, right? When people get confused. When they have a lead, they think it's going to be an easy process. But when there's no lead, they're like, I don't even know what to say. So what do you say when they answer the door, Jennifer, when it's not a lead?
Yeah, so I just walk up. Now, sometimes you can get an address and type it in fast people search and find a name, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people do. I do that sometimes. I do that sometimes, but that's all I have to go on and just say, I'm in the area. Sometimes I literally just walk up and say, hey, my name is Jennifer. I'm a local broker here in Moore County. I'm working the area today, and I'm just required to stop by here and review your insurance with you.
What do they say? What do they say when you say that? Do you get any like kickback or?
Sometimes they're like, oh no, I've got plenty of insurance. I'm like, great. Most people that I sit with actually do have insurance. It'll just take us a few minutes to review what you've got in place and make sure you're in a good spot, and I'll be out of your hair.
I can tell you were a nurse because the way you said that is you're very like, and that's such a good trait to do well in this business is you're authoritative, like you're not asking them questions. I think that's where people mess up the NeighborKnocks because they'll just be like, hey, do you want insurance? And 99% of people are going to be like, who are you? But if you're assumptive, like, hey, I'm the local agent here in Moore County. I just helped your neighbor out. I'm down here. I'm here to help you out now. You're going to get in the door, right? So it's that level of assumption. Now, did you always neighbor knock, or like what started the neighbor knocking for you?
No, I did not neighbor knock at first. And then I just thought, Alicia said one time, if you get told no, knock 3 houses in the neighborhood. And that just stuck with me. And I was like, what does that mean? How do you just knock 3 houses in the neighborhood? And I thought, well, what do I have to lose? They're either going to tell me yes or no. And what am I out 2 minutes? And if I'm not out 2 minutes, then I may potentially make a sale or be able to help these people. So what do you have to lose by knocking on a door and just saying, hey, my name is Jennifer. I'm the local broker in the area. I'm here to help you with your insurance. Just takes us what do you have to lose? 2 minutes. And then you go to And within 10 people that you knock, somebody's going to tell you yes.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
That's such a good attitude to have because that's the right way. If you're a field agent and you're not doing that, you're just going to one lead, getting in your car, going to the next lead that's 10 minutes away. You're missing so much opportunity. You know, I
And
think
I did that
Mhm.
starting out. I would just go to my leads. And I was like, how are all these people like getting all these houses? I did not understand. But
Yeah,
then when you start filling in with neighbor knocks, it makes a big difference.
100%. You know, if you buy one lead, that
Mhm.
should essentially be 4 total leads because you've
Yeah,
got 2 neighbors and then 1 across the street.
right.
And you turn 1 into 4 guys when you go out in the field, you're only gonna have to go out there. I always make fun of Alicia. She can go out in the field with 3 leads and somehow be gone all day and sell like 5K of AP. I'm like, "How did you do that with 3 leads?" And she's like, "I didn't even work the leads. I knocked the neighbor." You know, so it's like, it's just such key. We're spoiled as agents with leads because most door-to-door sales jobs, they don't have leads. They literally are driving around on one of those little hoverboards, just going neighbor, 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 neighbor. So that's awesome. Now, Jennifer, what have you found to be when you're knocking on a neighbor's door, right? What
Mhm.
have you found to be like the biggest objection they give you? Like, do you get hit with the, well, I didn't request that? Or what's like the number one thing that usually comes up?
Oh, yeah. They're like, oh, no, I'm good. I don't need that insurance. And I say, well, most people are, but that's why they've sent me.
Mhm.
We just
What
need
are
to read and I'll be out of your hair. I just keep going back to that's why they sent me. We just have to
Mhm.
review this. I'll be out of your hair.
Yeah. And what do you ever get like usually after you say that once or twice, they let you in, right?
Right. They do. They usually let you in and they might be a little confused, like, what am I doing here? But you just step in and you just start talking and you start connecting and then you just roll into what you're doing. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm at home and I've
Oh,
my
you're
dog.
good.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're
Um,
fine.
but you just roll, you just go in, you connect with them, and then you tell them why you're there and what you're doing. They are a little confused at first,
Mhm.
but you just connect and then they just let you roll right into your presentation. And that's what I did last week. I didn't sell I didn't sell any of my leads last week. They were all neighbor knots.
That's crazy. 10K off of just random neighbors. Think about if you didn't knock on those neighbors' doors, like if you just worked the leads, you'd have had a 0 week,
Yeah, yeah,
you know? So that's
yeah.
crazy. Guys, the difference, if you're listening to this, the difference between winning and losing your week is are you willing to do what Jennifer did? You know, knock on the random door. The more you put yourself out there, the more is going to come back to you with it.
Right.
So, um, Jennifer, what do you think like when you're knocking on a neighbor's door, right? And you show up to the door and they answer it, a big like hurdle agents have is they don't know the person's name.
Oh,
So
I
what
got
do
you.
you, yeah,
I
so
got
what do you do there?
so so this is just this is so terrible. This might be so bad. I don't know, but this is just what I just had a lady and her name was Delora. Okay. And I didn't know where Delora was. I didn't know where she was. So
Mhm.
I knocked on the door and I was like, hey, my name is Jennifer. I'm looking for Miss Delora. And they're like, Delora? And I was like, yeah. Isn't this where Delora lives? Isn't this? And I call out whatever, the
Mhm.
number. And they're like, no. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm at the wrong place. Well, I'm working in the area today. Let me tell you what I'm doing here. I'm Jennifer. I'm a local broker and I assist people with their insurance. I'm just here to go over that with you. I just
Mhm.
haven't got your name yet. I was looking for Miss Delora. Let's just sit down and have a talk, Let's just sit
Yeah,
down and insurance.
that's
So
such a good way of putting yourself out.
I
Like,
don't know if that's good or not, but I've done that before and it has absolutely worked.
hey, you know what's funny?
Did that
It's
last
funny
week.
that it's funny you say that, Jennifer, because like before when I first got started, I didn't do the neighbor knocking. You know, I'm like, I've got enough leads, I don't need to knock the neighbors, whatever. And I actually did that on accident. I went to the wrong address on like I thought I was at the
Well,
right house.
I've gone to the wrong address and had
Yeah.
the wrong information pulled up. So what's
Hmm.
the
Same
accident?
difference.
A little bit on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I love doing too is I'll take like if you guys have a lead that's just never at home, like you're gonna have some of those. I'll take the lead. I'll go to the neighbors and be like, "Hey, I'm Ryan. I'm the local agent here in town. I have been trying to get a hold of your neighbor, you know, Miss Betty, for like 3 months. Do you know when she's at home?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I start the conversation that way. I'll say, okay, well, since she's not here, let me go ahead and get you off my list. Let's go sit down and go over this real quick. So a lot of these neighbors, they've lived next to each other for 30, 40 years. You know, they know each other. So, but yeah, I went to the wrong address one time, Jennifer. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, and I turned to walk away. And the lady there was like, well, wait a minute, I need insurance. And it like rang in my head. I'm like, why didn't I ask her about it? So then I started doing that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's big. Now, Jennifer, you've been an agent for a few years now. And you've been consistent. Like, I really don't think of a week where you've not been consistently working, writing. You seem to always do good. What goes into that? All right. An agent who's like you, right? You're a mom, you've got all these different things going on. How do you put your attention into work and stay consistent with it?
So I know a lot of people don't use the Road Warrior, but I do use the Road Warrior, and I utilize that. I think it was Erin had told me or told, I don't know me specifically, but she was talking about her Road color code and her stops. So I put all my stuff in Road Warrior. I put all my leads, you know, have them in my Notability. Mine may not be as organized as some. But I know where to go to find mine. I just make sure that I have them in order before I head out, and that I know where I'm going. I'm going to go to this county. I'm going to work these leads right here in this area. And then always ask for referrals. Always.
How do you do that? What do you say?
So when we wrap up their insurance, I'm like, okay, great. Now I was able to help you. Who do you know that might need my assistance? Do you have neighbors? Do you have friends? Do you have family that might need me to come over and go and review what they've got in place? And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say, oh, I don't know anybody. But you just don't ever leave without asking.
Yeah, that's so true too. I think I went my whole first year never asking for a referral. Right. And, you know, I finished a presentation, and the lady that I had helped said, well, is this just for me, or like, can you help other people too? I'm like, well, I could help other people. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. And then that same thing rang in my head. I'm like, why have I not asked people? They've all thought that it was just for them. They didn't realize you could write everybody else. So now, Jennifer, you've worked, you know, a lot of different areas. Do you always work in your hometown? Do you travel? Like, what does that look like?
I do travel. I don't work. I do sometimes work close to home, but not normally. I normally travel 30 plus minutes away when I'm working. Yeah.
Yeah. I always did that too. I never like wanted to run into people that I like knew. You know what I mean? Because that could happen. Yeah. That's funny. Now, what is your 2025 goal? Like, what are you setting your sights on for this year?
Well, my husband and I already made a goal that we're going to save some money this year for sure. So nice. I'm make sure we're, you know, stashing some money away. And I mean, Scotland doesn't sound bad, right?
That's awesome. We're running for Scotland. Hey, you're gonna have a big chunk in savings after that week that you had last week. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, one question for you before we wrap up, Jennifer, is what's a tip you would give to the agent who they struggle with anxiety going up to a neighbor's door, right? Like, so some agents don't like the thought of a door approach stresses them out, but they do it anyway. But the thought of a neighbor approach is like, oh, heck no, I can't do that. What's a tip you have for them to just get out of that comfort zone to go do it? So
this is what I tell myself. This is the mentality that I have. What is the worst thing that's going to happen to you? They're going to tell you no. And you're in no worse shape than you were before you ever walked.
Uh-oh, we might have lost you, Jennifer. It might have cut off on us here. Okay, we'll see if she comes back on, guys. But she was diving into what's the worst case that could happen is you just get told no. That's so true with neighbors. So if you're a field agent and you've not been doing the neighbor knocks, don't be afraid to just put yourself out there, right? Don't be afraid. The worst that they're going to tell you is no, I don't need it. But by not knocking neighbors, you're missing such a huge opportunity. I'm not sure. Okay, she's back with us. She's back with us here.
I'm so
There you
sorry getting a phone call. It just
go.
totally
Yeah,
kicked.
you're good.
So I think what I was saying was like mentality wise, the worst thing they're gonna do is tell you no. So I told myself the worst thing somebody's gonna tell me is no. They're gonna tell me to get lost. And I'm gonna say, okay, thank you, have a great day. And I'm gonna walk back to my car and drive to the next lead or the next neighbor that I'm gonna knock. And if they don't tell you no and they let you in, it's a potential client and a friend for life. So that is really the mentality that I have, that I would tell anybody. The worst thing that they're going to tell you is no.
I
And it
love
can be a lead or it can be a neighbor knock, because they have likely filled something out before.
Mhm.
And maybe somebody's helped them and put them in a bad spot, and you might be the very one that can fix that for them.
Yeah, that's
And maybe
key.
I taught them at home.
Mhm.
So
I
the
love
worst
that tip.
no.
And guys, check it out. What Jennifer just said there, maybe they filled something out before. So early on in my career, I realized something. As I was buying leads, I was driving to leads, working the different houses. Well, my next batch of leads I got, I realized I had a lead for a house that I had literally driven by all week long. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have had this last week when I was out here, because they were at home. Now they're not at home. What I realized is when people get marketed for these leads, right? It's not just your lead. It is everybody that fits that demographic, which is usually all the neighbors too. So all the neighbors are filling out the same request. You might just not have got assigned the lead. It doesn't mean they didn't fill one out though. So I've gone up to neighbors and I've showed them a blank lead card, like a blank direct mail 2025 lead card, and said, hey, I'm Ryan. I'm a local agent here in town. We help people that fill out all these different mailers they get. Chances are you've probably got one and filled one out. My job's just to go over it with you. Let's go sit down at the kitchen table. And they're like, dang, Ryan, I just filled that thing out yesterday. How did you get here so fast? And
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time when you're in the field. So I love that you mentioned that. But in closing, Jennifer, if an agent wants to run for a 10K week this week, what would you tell them they got to do?
Get up and go. If there's a car in the yard, and sometimes there doesn't even have to be a car in the yard, knock the door. Just knock the door.
Love that tip. Guys, that's coming from an agent who just hit 10K.
Yeah. And don't be nervous, because I mean, anxiety is real. And I still have it sometimes myself. I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. But if they're home and they tell you no, that's the worst thing that's going to happen to you, is they tell you no. And you just go on to the next one. And it helps you get better at the door when somebody tells you no.
100%, right? You're never failing. You're just learning in the process. So, Jennifer, I appreciate you for jumping on and sharing those tips. And hats off to you for just having an amazing career so far, but also just a huge record week for you last week. So, super proud of you, Jennifer. Appreciate you for tuning in. Guys, that's all we got for you today. Don't be afraid to knock on the neighbors' doors. Put yourself out there. The more people you talk to, the more you're going to win. All right. If you are just like a little turtle in your shell out there or on the phones, you're not calling enough people, then the more you're going to win. So we appreciate you guys for jumping on here. Thank you again, Jennifer. Guys, let's go have a big day today, a big week. We will be back here on Friday. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.